The room went silent, and my relationship ended without an argument.
The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, a sound that felt louder at night than it ever had before. I sat on the floor surrounded by half-packed boxes, realizing how quickly a life can empty out without warning. Only weeks earlier, everything had felt stable, even comfortable, in a way I had mistaken for permanent. Routine had lulled me into believing nothing could truly change. I had always been the louder one, the sharper one, the person who filled space easily. Confidence had been my identity, even when it crossed into carelessness. Social gatherings were where I thrived, fueled by attention and laughter that made me feel powerful. I rarely noticed who shrank when I spoke. He was always quieter, steady, and observant, content to listen while others talked. I once admired that about him before I began to resent it. I told myself he lacked ambition, that his calm was weakness rather than strength. Those thoughts settled into me slowly, unnoticed. The night everything shifted felt ordinary at first, another casual evening filled with drinks and conversation. Alcohol softened my restraint while sharpening my ego. Words flowed easily, unfiltered and careless. Carried by the laughter of people who were not affected by them, I felt untouchable in that moment. When he tried to add something thoughtful to the conversation, impatience flared inside me. Without thinking, I cut him down with a joke meant to impress others. The room reacted instantly, laughter dying awkwardly as silence rushed in to fill the gap. I smiled anyway, pretending it was harmless. He did not respond with anger or embarrassment. He simply looked at me and something in his eyes closed. He stood, excused himself politely, and left the room without raising his voice. That calm unsettled me more than shouting ever could have. I brushed it off publicly, but the drive home was painfully quiet. The silence felt intentional. At home, he went straight to another room, closing the door gently behind him. That quiet click echoed in my chest. I slept poorly, replaying the moment over and over, convincing myself he was overreacting. Denial felt easier than accountability. Morning arrived without the small rituals I had taken for granted. No coffee waiting, no note, no familiar warmth. A short message sat on the counter, asking for time rather than forgiveness. The restraint in those words frightened me. Days passed, and the distance grew structured and deliberate. Conversations became factual, stripped of emotion. I noticed how much I had relied on his presence without appreciating it. The apartment felt colder without his quiet consistency. Friends asked questions I struggled to answer honestly. Saying it out loud made it real. I replayed years of interactions, seeing patterns I had ignored. Interruptions, dismissive jokes, casual criticisms disguised as humor. I realized how often I had tested his patience without considering the cost. Kindness, I learned, has limits. He finally spoke plainly, not with cruelty but with clarity. He explained how my words had confirmed feelings he had been suppressing for a long time. I tried to defend myself, blaming stress and misunderstandings. The excuses sounded hollow even to me. He explained that love cannot survive contempt, even when disguised as jokes. That truth settled heavily. The separation was not dramatic, but it was final. He chose distance to protect himself. Watching him pack felt surreal, like witnessing the end of a story I assumed would continue. Each box carried weight beyond its contents. When the door closed behind him, the silence became permanent. There was no argument left to have. Life shrank quickly after that. Routines dissolved and distractions lost their effectiveness. I tried to distract myself with work and social plans. Nothing filled the absence of respect I had destroyed. Late at night, I scrolled through old photos, noticing how often he had been looking at me while I looked elsewhere. The regret was sharp and unavoidable. Friends grew quieter, unsure how to comfort someone responsible for their own loss. I could not blame them. I sought help not to win him back, but to understand myself. That process was uncomfortable and slow. I learned how arrogance often masks insecurity, how control often hides fear. I recognized my need to dominate conversations and situations. That awareness was humbling. If you ever feel like you're struggling with patterns you can't seem to break, please know that talking to a professional can make a world of difference. There's real strength in seeking support. Time passed unevenly, marked by reflection rather than healing. Growth does not follow schedules. Occasionally, I saw him from a distance, looking steadier and more grounded than before. That hurt more than anger would have. I realized then that his response was not cruelty. It was self-respect. The apartment emptied further as I prepared to leave. Memories clung stubbornly to the walls. I found a letter he had left behind, written carefully and without blame. It explained that he had learned to value himself too much to stay diminished. Reading it felt like standing in front of a mirror I had avoided for years. Truth has a way of stripping away illusion,